Alright, here we are for round number 1 with blue-black flicker. This hand is pretty good. I'm going to keep this one. It's not great because I don't have really any good value creatures to play, but I've got some removal spells, I've got my mana on time and everything like that, so I'm not going to go ahead and mulligan a hand like this. We're playing against almost certainly the mirror, so this is a regular island, it's not snow covered, so that means they're probably playing blue-black. Basically no other decks, yeah. No other decks are playing island without it being a snow-covered island. Pretty crazy. I'm not even sure, like, other than there's basically no deck in the format right now that I can think of that you won't know exactly what your opponent is playing after the first turn. Really almost every single deck is completely predictable at this point. So unfortunately, we just have a bunch of removal spells, which are pretty bad against this deck. Our mana hasn't been great because like I'm not even close to casting counterspell and stuff. And then my mana is a little slow, and I don't have any good cards to follow up anyway. So I would be very surprised if we won this match, or this game, I mean. It was possible I should have waited to see if they played another Chittering Rats this turn. It's also possible I should have used Echoing Decay, because like Seagate Oracle is going to eat an Edict here. I'm going to go ahead and just Edict this Seagate Oracle away. They are probably going to have Reaping the Graves in their deck, but they also definitely have multiple Ghostly Flickers, so it's nice to keep some of this other stuff off the battlefield. This is pretty unfortunate that we're going to keep getting ratted. Alright, still can't cast anything. I'm not going to play this Echoing Decay. If I get lucky, they'll try to Ghostly Flicker this rat or something, and then I'll Echoing Decay it. So it looks like I should have probably just taken a little extra damage from the original rat and then held this up. Kill them both. Okay, well, it's as good a time as any to get a Mulldrifter countered, right? Not just going to sit around not doing anything, even though, I mean, they haven't tapped any mana, so I'm willing to guarantee this gets countered. A Remove Soul, okay, so they're not quite on the stock list. Normally that deck doesn't play a Remove Soul, but it's not out of the question. It's a fine card and everything. So ideally we draw an island pretty soon, and then I can play out this Archaeomancer and then get it countered. Alright, these both seem fine. I'll go top. I'll draw the Dismal Backwater and play it. Then I'll pass the turn. So, kind of our saving grace this game is that we have our Reaping the Graves, which is almost certainly the best card in the matchup. It's probably not even close, to be honest. Mulldrifter is great too, but Reaping the Graves is going to be by far the best card. So I do have to decide what I want to run into a counterspell here. See if my opponent... So even if my opponent plays a Mulldrifter, they can still hold up counterspell, so that's pretty unfortunate. Archaeomancer. Okay. What are they getting back? A Remove Soul? Okay. So I kind of have to decide if I want to Echoing Decay this and risk it getting flickered. The thing is, if he flickers both of these, then I don't even get to draw my Mulldrifter. I'm gonna run the Archaeomancer into this counterspell. I assume it'll get countered, but maybe it won't. I'll get back an Edict and just cast it. If it resolves. If it doesn't resolve, I'm gonna Echoing Decay his Archaeomancer. If he decides to counter it. See what my opponent's got. Okay, so they obviously don't care. Could be better for me to get the Preordain, but I think I'm probably kind of far away from being able to do something like that. The benefit of Chainer's Edict here is that my opponent can't flicker to save their guys. If he has a flicker, he'll probably cast it here. At least he should. Okay. That makes me think my opponent, well, I don't know. They might have a Reaping the Graves here. Nope, just an Echoing Decay on my Archaeomancer. That's okay. So I'd like to hit one more blue source to get this Muldrifter down, but it is what it is, even if I can't. So I think I'm going to evoke one Muldrifter. We'll see if that gets countered. Alright. So now I have to decide here. I think I will Reaping the Graves to get back my Archaeomancer and both Muldrifters. That seems like a pretty good value. Let's go ahead and get this Muldrifter first. If my opponent has one counterspell, they'll probably counter the one targeting my Archaeomancer, I guess. But maybe not. So this is like a draw 10 or something like that, assuming I can resolve all my stuff. Alright. Seems pretty good. I would like to hit a few more lands at some point, especially a blue land, so I could hold up this counterspell when I play one of these things. See if I'm getting flickered here. Okay, my opponent has their own Reaping the Graves. So it's about the same as ours. They're getting back three cards as well. Problem is they have more mana than us, so they're gonna be able to play this Archaeomancer plus hold up Remove Soul, which is pretty frustrating for us. Yeah, so this is kind of a typical, like, this is what you would expect out of a control mirror where they drew more lands than us, so they're pretty far ahead of us. We did draw a lot of gas, but it's not going to be enough probably to get around this stuff. If they're holding up a counterspell, I can't resolve anything again unless I draw my own island. If I draw an island, I'll be in pretty good shape. So I was saying before that, okay, that I have a couple fewer blue sources than some other decks, some other versions of this deck. Let me go ahead and cast this. I do get to hold up Echoing Decay. I'm sure this is getting countered, of course. And I will counter back. So my opponent's gonna kill my Muldrifter, obviously, with something, and then I'll be able to play some more of them. They're gonna... We could be here for a while. My opponent is going to be able to Archaeomancer back their Reaping the Graves, and I'm going to be able to Archaeomancer back my Reaping the Graves probably at some point. And we'll be kind of going back and forth and back and forth. I don't believe I have a Bojuka Bog in my list. If they have one, that'll probably win them the game. I'll be able to get down this Seagate Oracle next turn and stuff. Start blocking things. It's kind of important to hold onto this Echoing Decay if I can, just so when we start getting like locked out of the game. I'm gonna block this Seagate Oracle because I know they have another Chittering Rats in hand, and I want to be able to kill both of them with Echoing Decay. But it's kind of important to keep your Echoing Decay sometimes, so they can't lock you. Like having one piece of instant speed removal can be really important. Alright, they've got their own Muldrifter. And then island. So I know they have a rat and an Archaeomancer in their hand. Let's see what they play here. This would be a good time for them to play their Archaeomancer and get back Reaping the Graves, but it doesn't look like that's what they want to do. Put this Muldrifter on top. Okay, so they're giving me free reign to just resolve stuff, so I'm going to play my Archaeomancer. I got to make sure this gets onto the field to get back the Reaping the Graves. That's an incredibly important interaction that I need to make sure that I do that. And then I'm going to Echoing Decay away these rats. And I don't have a card draw problem, I have a mana problem, so I'm going to play this Lonely Sandbar tapped. I expect my opponent to do something similar. Archaeomancer back there Reaping the Graves this turn, and we could be going in a circle like this for a while. Okay, I think Archaeomancer is the one I want to sacrifice. And I'm perfectly happy to trade my Muldrifter for their Muldrifter. Okay, so that's pretty bad. Because now they're going to be able to play their Archaeomancer, get back both their rats if they want, I suppose. We fell a little behind from the 2/2s hitting us over and over just because we didn't have the mana that we needed early. One advantage I do have right now is that I'm pretty far ahead of my opponent on time at the moment. Okay, I'm getting hit by a third rat. I'm going to put a Muldrifter on top. So I need to resolve this Muldrifter, so I'll just go ahead and do that. Most likely going to play a Muldrifter and a Seagate Oracle this turn. Yep. Hopefully I hit a land in here. Did not hit a land. Echoing Decay, more important than another rat, I think. It's not really going to be possible for me to lock my opponent out. As long as they like cast their Archaeomancer and get back almost anything this turn. Like I said before, they should get back their Reaping the Graves. Alright, yep, Seagate Oracle down. They do have enough mana to flash it back, so we're actually dead this turn. Yeah, so like I said, we got stuck on mana, so we lost this game. Pretty much was kind of the whole thing. I couldn't do anything because I got stuck on mana for a little while. Alright, so I want Dispel, and I want Relic, and then I probably want these Stormbound Geists. What do I not want? I don't really want like any of my removal spells basically. I don't want really any of the sorcery speed removal, and I don't want these Doomblades either. I am going to keep some Disfigures and Echoing Decays in, just so I can break up their combo, but I really don't want to have removal spells in the deck. They're just really bad. So this matchup's all about value, and we can trade creatures with them. We've got all the same stuff. In fact, it's possible I should be taking out these Echoing Decays just because we have the same stuff as them. But you do need some answers to the combo. Like, you don't want them to be able to Ghostly Flicker their stuff and just get you. So I'm going to stick with this pile of stuff, and we'll submit the deck. It's a little unfortunate our opponent was able to draw just enough removal to kill us there. If they hadn't drawn one of those Chainer's Edicts, we could have probably traded and stabilized and just played for a lot longer, even though we were probably still going to be behind our opponent. But our opponent was playing a lot slower than us, so it would have been pretty easy probably for us to time them out this match if we could have made that one last a little longer. But I'd rather just win fair and square than trying to time out a slower player. But that's something you need to be aware of in Pauper, especially. Especially if you play a deck like this, a lot of games go to time, and that's just the reality of the metagame. There are some really slow decks. It's the only format that has decks this slow, pretty much. So, you got to be mindful of your clock. Let's go back and okay, never mind. Nothing else to see. Would I like to play first? Yes, I would. This hand is bad. It's close. If this were an island, I would probably keep this hand, but it's not, so I'm gonna have to mulligan that. This hand looks great. It's slow, but it's fine. We have a lot of mana. I'd like to see Seagate Oracle would be really nice to play on turn 3, because I can't actually play this rat on turn 3. Muldrifter is great. I'm gonna put that on top, of course. We don't have any counter spells, so we're gonna be kind of at the mercy of whatever our opponent does, but that's just the reality that we have to live with. Okay, our opponent's got both their colors right away. I'd like to draw a Swamp or Seagate Oracle most. I wouldn't say no to a Preordain myself either. Preordain is so good. This is kind of an underrated card. Just it fixes your draws so perfectly. It's beautiful. So they put a card on the top and the bottom. They found their tapped land or their Karoo land. We do another island, so you can see why I kind of like having those extra swamps in the deck. You can play this Chittering Rats on time. Because now I can't even play it. Okay, I can play it now, I guess. I suppose I can get my chittering rats removed sold. Actually, I wouldn't mind my rat getting removed sold because that would mean I could be more likely to play my Muldrifter next turn. Our mana was super awkward this game until we drew the swamp. Like I couldn't even cast the rat this turn with this Dimir Aqueduct just because it comes into play tapped. See what my opponent's got. Perfect. That means we get to resolve our Muldrifter. Very happy to see them play a Seagate Oracle here. Alright, Archaeomancer is another great one. So being on the play is really important sometimes in this matchup. Like we got to play this Chittering Rats, and then they had to tap too low to play their Seagate Oracle, and then I got to resolve a Muldrifter. And they might be able to resolve a Muldrifter too, but if they can't, we're going to win. A lot of times this matchup just comes down to who breaks the Muldrifter parity before the other one. So currently I'm up one Muldrifter. If they can answer me with a Muldrifter right here, they might have a chance to come back, but if they can't, they're going to be in trouble here. Chainer's Edict is fine. I'm going to get rid of the rat. I think I would rather blink the Muldrifter. Actually, I think I might rather have the rat, actually. I kind of expect both of them to die anyway. Thing is, I have the Archaeomancer plus the Flicker, so the rat might be a little more important. But I'm gonna get rid of the rat. Muldrifter can just attack better and stuff. It's a better creature in general. Alright. My opponent have another removal spell? They don't. We have another Muldrifter, which kind of makes me wish that I hadn't done it this way. Been nice to still have a rat, but that's okay. I'm kind of an awkward spot with my mana at this point, because I'm going to have to discard if I play this Muldrifter. If I play the Seagate Oracle, I don't necessarily have to. I'm also kind of expecting this to get countered, so I'm actually going to play the Seagate Oracle, and I'm going to represent Counterspell here. Alright, it didn't get countered. Yeah, definitely want the Preordain. Let's go ahead and cast this. Don't want that. Seagate Oracle is okay. He's not super important, but I'm not just gonna like throw away a 2-for-1, so we'll do that. Pick up this island and we'll pass the turn. See my opponent, if they have a Muldrifter here, looks like they do. Yep. But we are gonna have another Muldrifter next turn, if we want it. One of the problems I'm running into here is I actually have too much card advantage there. I'm going to have to discard if I play some of this stuff. So I'm going to go ahead and disfigure this Muldrifter. I'll just attack with my Muldrifter. And let's go ahead and play another Muldrifter. I'll probably play my island just so I don't have to discard. Yep, get this Preordain going. Don't want either of this stuff, or I don't want that, but I do kind of want this Relic. Relic is also nice because that means I can get ahead on cards even more if I want. So one of the issues that you run into with this deck is that you have to discard sometimes if all your spells are resolving. And that was kind of what just happened to me. Okay, drew a Counterspell, which is a great draw. Go ahead and attack with both our Muldrifters. So the nice thing about Relic, though, is that it sits on the battlefield and it represents a future card draw, but you don't have to draw the card right now. Your opponent's trading. So the most important card actually to resolve here is this Relic of Progenitus, so I'm going to play it. It's going to turn off my opponent's Reaping the Graves eventually. I'll play this Archaeomancer, and I'm going to pick up a Preordain, and then I'm going to play a tapped land, I think. Actually, I think I'll play this Swamp. I don't really need this one to resolve, but if my opponent counters it, I'll just cast Counterspell and pick up my Counterspell again. Let's grab this Preordain. It's not the most value, but it is kind of a lot of value. I'm going to play this so I can hold up Ghostly Flicker if I need to. Also lets me hold up Counterspell plus crack my Relic. So like I said before, Reaping the Graves is, in the first game, Reaping the Graves is kind of the trump card, because all of our stuff just discards things and doesn't exile anything. So all the creatures end up in the graveyard and they can get them all back. So on my upcoming turn, I'm probably going to lead off with Seagate Oracle probably. I'm going to tap these two to play it. Nile Spellbomb. So my opponent's on kind of the same plan. I think I might actually counterspell this. I think it might be that important to counterspell this card. Yeah, I think Graveyard Hate is the most important thing in the matchup, and I bet they counter back if they have one. So all the other stuff in the matchup is replaceable. So like we've got, you can recycle everything as long as your graveyard is still intact. Yeah, they have a counterspell too. Kind of figured that might happen. So as long as your graveyard is still around, you can protect everything. Like I can just get back anything from my graveyard with Ghostly Flicker. Between Ghostly Flickering on Archaeomancers and Reaping the Graves, you can get back everything from your graveyard. Alright, so I do have to decide if I want to pop my Relic in order to prevent them from getting 2 Muldrifters back. I don't really have good answers to double Muldrifter at this point. It's tough because it's going to leave a Reaping the Graves in their graveyard so they can pick it up again. But like I said, I don't have good answers right now to double Muldrifter. I'm actually going to let them have it. So that was actually a pretty tough choice there. Reason being is I also don't want to exile my graveyard. So this turn I can go ahead and Archaeomancer and target my counterspell, and then they'll probably pop their Spellbomb, and then I'll have access to Ghostly Flicker on double Archaeomancer. But that was a pretty tough decision there about what to do. Alright, I'll attack with everything. See what they've got. Okay. Yeah, so I expect this to meet with the Nile Spellbomb. But maybe it won't. Another benefit of this is now their Spellbomb doesn't draw them any cards. So I'm fine with that. I think I will Ghostly Flicker my 2 Archaeomancers to get back my Ghostly Flicker plus my counterspell. So unfortunately I don't have an untapped mana, but I think this is still okay. Counterspell for you, Flicker for you. Alright. Okay, so my opponent has conceded. Makes sense, they're a little below us on time, and if they don't have good answers to what we have going on right now, like their Muldrifters are not going to be enough. We've got kind of the loop going, and we were able to save our relics. So you can see why I decided to let them do their Reaping the Graves. Like our opponent conceded right there, even though they resolved the Reaping the Graves, because we still had our Graveyard Hate and they didn't. That's another reason also why I like Relic a little better, is it's really inevitable. Like eventually all your cards are going to be gone from the graveyard, whereas the Spellbomb's kind of a one-time thing. I was able to save some of the stuff that mattered, and all I got were these things, and it just wasn't that important. Alright, so let's begin sideboarding. I think I'm going to stick with what I have. I didn't really want any of this other stuff. There's something to be said about maybe keeping an Edict rather than Echoing Decay, simply because my opponent has so many creatures that are the same as ours, but the instant speed is so important, so I'm just gonna, I think, stick with what I have here and run it back. Those of you who are a little more familiar with this deck maybe know a little bit better than me what to do there. I've only played this deck a couple times, maybe like 3 or 4 leagues before now, and it's been a long time. We've got another mulligan here. Another hand where if we had an island I would probably keep this, but we don't. Now this is a tough one. If I have a land in my top two, this hand is quite good. I'm actually going to keep this. I'm a greedy. Oh, I hit mulligan instead of keep. Well, Magic Online making me do what I probably should have done anyway. I'm actually going to keep this all land hand. It seems pretty sweet. Echoing Decay I definitely don't want though. Not going down to 4 against this deck, plus I've got all my colors, I've got everything, so Spirit don't want that. I do want this Relic though. That's also a nice card to play next turn before I play my Aqueduct. Alright, they've got their own Aqueduct. So I just need to draw some spells here at some point. Alright, so Relic is obviously incredibly important to the matchup, and since I got it so early, my opponent's not going to be able to fill up they're not going to have a full graveyard or anything before I get to start using it. We've drawn pretty well so far. Relic was good, Preordain was a good draw, Chittering Rats was a good draw. Stormbound Geist is pretty decent. I think the Chittering Rats is more important, but the Geist is better against removal. I'll go ahead and play the Geist. Get my clock going. Our opponent still has a ton of cards, so I'm not sure that the card advantage is necessarily what we need to win the game at this point. At least not like the cards in hand advantage. What I really don't want to happen is have my opponent play their own rat. That would be really bad for me. I also didn't really want them to just be able to like disfigure my guy plus play another Seagate Oracle. That would have been pretty annoying too. Alright, Relic's pretty good draw actually, again. Get in there. My opponent didn't play anything. I think I'm gonna play the Relic. I'm not sure which one I would rather resolve, the Rat or the Relic. My guess is whichever one I play first is getting countered. So I think I'd actually rather resolve the Relic, so I'm going to play the Rat. The disadvantage of this is, like, if he has Exclude, that's kind of a beating, but if it's just Counterspell, it's okay. I'm guessing anyone who has Remove Soul in their deck doesn't have room for, okay. We're getting disfigured. Geist coming back. That was interesting play to disfigure my Stormbound Geist. Probably has his own Edict or something for next turn. So, getting their graveyard empty. We do need to draw something, and it's possible I'm going to have to pop one of these relics at some point in order to draw a spell. Right now we're winning the race, so they have to commit some stuff to the board. But that shouldn't be too hard for them, especially if they play a rat here. Okay, just an Invoked Muldrifter is an okay. That's an okay thing for our opponent to have as far as we're concerned. I do get to exile both of those things again. Oh man, our opponent's missing a land drop. That means they have a ton of gas in hand though, so if we don't draw anything, might have to... Yeah, I might just need to pop one of these, I think. I don't think I can quite afford to sit around doing nothing for too many more turns. Well, looks like I'm doing nothing for at least one more turn. Would have been nice to draw any of our 3 drops there, get in some value. Like if we could Chittering Rat our opponent so they don't draw into a land again. Chainer's Edict. Kind of annoying. I do get to take that out of their graveyard though. Not that they were anywhere even remotely close to casting it, but still. Alright, another land. It's pretty bad. But this is what you sign up for when you keep a 5-land hand. Sometimes you draw a bunch of lands too. Like if they play a Muldrifter here, we're gonna be really hard pressed to win unless we draw our own Muldrifter too. And they evoked a Muldrifter earlier, so I'm very confident that they have a Muldrifter. Alright, they played around our counterspell that turn, and this turn we actually drew the counterspell. So we might have gotten a little lucky there. Would have been nice if we could have kept attacking with this guy. But he was a nice little 2-for-1, so not too bad. Fortunate this guy doesn't die to disfigure, but what are you going to do, right? There's the Muldrifter our opponent should have cast last turn because now it's getting countered. And they didn't know they should have cast it last turn. I actually think it's probably a smart move by them not to cast it last turn, but it just didn't quite work out for them this time. Preordain. Muldrifter. Awesome. So, I think I'm going to play this. Yeah, there's no way for me to hold up counterspell, really. Okay. So those are great draws. So unlike our opponent, our Archaeomancers are not dead. Our opponent's Archaeomancers are completely dead, but ours are not. You gonna jam their third Muldrifter this turn? Sure. That is fine. I'm gonna go ahead and kill it and take it out of their graveyard right away. So, it is unfortunate that they got to resolve so many Muldrifters, but, well, they only get to resolve one for real. Okay, they've got to go to their discard phase here. We're going to be able to get back a counterspell with our Archaeomancer, which is going to be a huge deal for the matchup. If I draw an island, I'll be able to play Seagate Oracle, Archaeomancer, and hold up the counterspell. Otherwise, I'm going to probably just play the Archaeomancer and get back the counterspell. Okay, let's go ahead and take that Disfigure out of their graveyard right away. My opponent's a little stuck on mana at this point, so it is kind of a good time to just sit back on a counterspell with my Archaeomancer. I think I'm actually just going to play both of these guys out instead. Seagate Oracle, Reaping the Graves. Reaping the Graves is probably the best card in the matchup, but currently I don't really have anything in my graveyard. Fortunately, I did have to exile my rat earlier with my relic. I think I'm just gonna... oh geez. I think I gotta take the Reaping the Graves. It's just too good. I'll play that. Place Archaeomancer and get back this counterspell. Alright, then I'm gonna attack. See what my opponent has here. Hopefully they kill like 2 or 3 of my creatures, is kind of what I really want to happen. Hopefully their hand is full of their own Reaping the Graves and their own Archaeomancers and stuff. Getting kind of punished for my mana base kind of over and over. It's I should probably move to another island over a swamp. Compared to the other decks, actually, now that I'm thinking back, I have the same number of each color, but I have, I'm playing a Lonely Sandbar in place of an island, and then I have 1 fewer Barrenmoor and 1 more Swamp, because I wanted more untapped black early, more than I wanted untapped blue, but they're, I don't know, they're pretty equivalent mana bases, so I guess I'm not really getting punished for it, because it would have just been like, this could have been a Barrenmoor and not an island or anything. Stormbound Geist. Stormbound Geist not quite as good when your opponent has a relic, of course. It's obviously a little awkward that if they have a removal spell, we're not really going to be able to take this Stormbound Geist out of their graveyard, but that's fine with me. Alright, let's go ahead and play Seagate Oracle out. Okay. Muldrifter is obviously a great draw. Opponent does have enough mana for a double counterspell, so I might actually just wait. a turn here. So what I don't want to happen is attack with my Muldrifter, and then they trade, and then they use a removal spell on one of my other guys, and then I can't take the Stormbound Geist out of the graveyard, so I'm actually just going to attack with these two. For those of you who don't know, Stormbound Geist, it cannot block creatures that don't have flying, so I'm just going to go ahead and attack with these guys. Stormbound Geist can't block either of them. So the benefit there of attacking with my Muldrifter would be that my opponent could have then I could have cast Reaping the Graves to get back my Muldrifter and my Stormbound Geist, but okay, that's great. I like that. I should have considered picking both of these back up with my Reaping the Graves, but I'll almost certainly be able to do that at the end of their turn. Okay, let's go ahead and take this out. Obviously I'm going to get rid of a Seagate Oracle here. It's possible I should have considered getting rid of my Muldrifter. Their own relic, so I'm going to try to counter this, I guess. So like I said before, counterspell or relic is, these graveyard hate spells are the most important spells in the matchup. Almost none of the other spells matter at all. So I'm going to Reaping the Graves here and get back all three of our guys before this resolves. I'm going to put the extra trigger on the Archaeomancer, because that's the one I want to get back the most. So I got one on the Stormbound, one on Archaeomancer, one on Seagate Oracle, another one on the Archaeomancer, and another one on the Seagate Oracle. So ideally I will get a Ghostly Flicker at some point, and I'll be able to get back my Reaping the Graves with the relic trigger on the stack. But I'm not sure that that's going to be the case for me. See if my opponent wants to attack. They don't. Alright, let's get one card out of there. So it's possible I should force them to just crack this right now, but I actually have a little bit of time before they run me out of cards in there, so let's go ahead and play a Chittering Rat. My opponent knows my entire hand other than this Muldrifter at this point. I'm assuming they do have a Remove Soul, but if that's what they want to use it on, that means I get to resolve my Muldrifter, which I'm very happy about. This is worst against Echoing Decay, so it's possible I don't really want to do this. Oh wait. Opponent. I tricked them and I didn't even realize it. Opponent, please, with the relic. The relic. I'm getting back my Reaping the Graves, man. Oh yes. Oh yes. Ooh, this is a tough one. I think it's Ghostly Flicker though. Okay. Can't attack. So I will get rid of my Preordain here to their relic. So the big issue is now for my opponent is they're gonna have to probably, interesting, yeah, they gotta make some kind of greedy plays like this. Not greedy, but just desperate, not greedy, desperate plays. So this relic is probably going to have to be used to get rid of my Ghostly Flicker from my graveyard, and then I'll have my Reaping the Graves again. So, not great for them. And this Dispel is obviously an incredible draw. That means I'm going to be able to resolve my Muldrifter. I think we're almost certainly going to win this game at this point. So at this point, they have to always keep up a mana for their relic, but I don't really need to for mine at this point. Let's go ahead and play this Muldrifter. Hopefully draw a counterspell. We didn't, but we did draw a Ghostly Flicker. Yeah, I think I'll just pass. See what my opponent does. I'll get rid of the Preordain. I have the Reaping the Graves, so I think I'll get rid of my counterspell rather than my rat. See what my opponent does here. Looks like nothing. They should probably consider flashing back their Edict while they can if they're not going to be doing anything else. Yep. Goodbye, Seagate. So this is probably a decent time for me to Reaping the Graves and get back both my guys. I do want this rat back, so I could consider doing that. I don't really want to give them that kind of value with their relic, but I think I'm okay with it. So I'm going to go ahead and Flicker, Archaeomancer plus Muldrifter. See if they have a Dispel. They do. Well, I too have a Dispel. It's a little unfortunate that they were able to also hold up mana now for their relic. Okay, we win the match. Our opponent's off it, and they probably should be, because I think we were going to win pretty decisively right there. Alright, cool. So you guys could kind of see how to navigate this matchup. Land drops are incredibly important, and then keeping all of your... So this deck goes infinite on card advantage and stuff, so making sure you protect all of your pieces that allow you to go infinite is important. So you need to make sure you always have one Archaeomancer at least left in your deck. You want to make sure you keep this Reaping the Graves, and you want to make sure you have at least one Ghostly Flicker available. As long as they're in your graveyard, they're still accessible through this Archaeomancer. You just have to make sure everything can't get exiled with these relics. So you saw there that the relics were the most important card in the matchup, and even just keeping them on the board rather than popping them can be the difference in the game. So that was a pretty cool matchup. I love playing these kinds of mirrors, these drawn out card advantage slog fests. I know a lot of you guys don't like playing those, but that's kind of my favorite thing to do, and I think it's definitely kind of like my specialty is playing these kinds of matches. So hopefully I get to play some more of those. I will see you guys for next round.